Welcome back to another episode of Contractor Secrets with Trade Business Success. This is a podcast for Aussie contractors who are on a mission to scale their business, their income, and their life. My name is Bayley Peachey, this episode's host, and today we have a guest on the show that I'm pretty excited to be speaking with. This is a man that is on a personal mission to improve the lives and reputation of bricklayers all across the country. He runs his own masonry company, a custom masonry equipment manufacturing company, and a job management software company specifically designed for brickies. And that man is Scott Howard. Scott, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Yeah, good, Bayley. How you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. Glad to have you on here. We might start at the beginning. Where did you grow up? What were you like as a kid? How did you get into construction?
Yeah, so the old man was a brickie, so it was kind of, always on a job site. He worked us pretty hard even from about 8 years old. We're going in and, he was treating us like the staff, so we learned work ethic pretty young. Sort of built into us. So yeah, I always loved building stuff, and always loved working hard, to be honest, and getting out in the sun and all that stuff. So
that's awesome. Growing up to myself, like my old man obviously run his own trade business, always growing up in construction. For me, I used to apparently be glued to the window in the afternoons while my dad used to work at Energex. So every day he'd come home with a new type of truck, a cherry picker or something like that. And I was devastated. Apparently, I don't know how old I was, pretty little, but I was devastated when he went into corporate in Energex and started going to meetings. So instead of bringing home cool construction equipment and trucks and stuff like that, I'd go, how did you have a good meeting? Did you do meetings? And a little bit fun about that. But it's always exciting when you get to do it with family, I think.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. I learned a lot around work ethic, and probably a lot around how not to run a business from the old man as well. So seeing sort of his side of, he everything rule with an iron fist and going down that line, not really training staff and, not being able to hold employees, and sort of what it did to his body and mindset. And that was kind of my motivation for wanting to learn more about how to run a business as opposed to just being a good tradesman.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess fast forward to today, you're currently running 3 companies. Like you've got Melbourne Masonry, the Brick Business, and the Better Brick app.
Yeah.
Walk me through this. So maybe let's just start with Melbourne Masonry. Talk me through it.
Yep. So, basically started the apprenticeship when I was 14 was qualified at 17 and was essentially just waiting to get my car license to be able to start my business, bought all my tools and everything like that. As soon as I got my license, started my business in bricklaying. To be honest, it was probably a dumb decision to do that. Didn't know anything.
You were pretty hungry for it.
Didn't know anything at all. Worked, doing dark till dark, 7 days for, a couple of years, bought a house and got myself sort of set up. And then in the meantime, I was actually doing night school and did my building license. I always wanted to be a builder. But to be honest with you, the more I learned about building, the more I was like, shit, these guys take on a lot of risk, and the reward's not always worth it. And it gave me a good insight into, how builders think. And I was like, you know what, I could really do something, better in the bricklaying industry there's a lot of bricklayers out there not acting professional, and there's sort of a gap there to really step it up. So that was when we decided to start Melbourne Masonry, which I started with my brother, who's a brickie, and my best mate who I grew up with, who was also a brickie. So we sort of shared a vision, that was when we kicked it off about 6 or 7 years ago. We sort of spent the first few years really just grinding and trying things out, learning the hard way, I'd sort of put it. Everyone, you hear from a lot of wise people, like, you need to work smart, but I really think there's a long time where you're not smart, so you work hard, So
absolutely.
It took us a few years. We did manage. The main thing is we managed to dive right into it. Was trying to track our numbers and make sure that we're using data to sort of plan our way forward and work on building some systems that we can kind of scale the business. So after about 3 years, we sort of scaled up to about 90 guys. And to be honest, it was sort of out of control. It was, we had some systems in place, but it was, probably our leadership skills and, our business sense, and even our capital wasn't up to running that sort of size business. So we learned a lot, but we managed to sort of yeah, at that point, we were all stressed out, burnt out, probably weren't getting the results that we wanted. So we sat down together and sort of went away and said, look, let's do a 5-year plan of where we want to be personally, business-wise, in the next 5 years. Gave ourselves a couple of weeks and we got back together and wrote it out. And they're all kind of a bit different what we wanted. And that was where we decided to scale back Melbourne Masonry and really dive into to increasing profit as opposed to growth as much, and working on, trying to find a bit more of a niche and also, just diving into and also separating our job roles as well. So having 3 guys in the business, we had to trust each other to do different things of what we're good at. So, Dakota, my business partner, he was better at managing guys. And sort of the operations. So he stepped into being operations manager more. I stepped into being sort of more of the overseer and sort of architect in the background, if you like, setting up the systems.
Big picture a little bit, strategic decisions.
Which and getting off the tools completely myself as well. Mark at the same time, he was doing a bit of operations, but he's also really handy with building tools and stuff. So that was where we started going, okay, we want to increase our labour efficiency, and started creating a bunch of our own tools and things like that to increase our margins. And then from that point on, then things started really gaining momentum and getting a lot better because we're doing roles that we're enjoying, we're good at. And we're really, and then having that 5-year plan of where we want to be kind of gave us that why we're doing it, which was really important as well to know, at the end of the day, when you have a hard day, why you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, things started going really, started excelling at a rapid rate then for us and really, making sense. And then probably about a year after that was when me and Mark, because he'd started making so many products and that, we sort of came up with we're doing all this learning. We need to share this with people. We need to get it out there. And at the same time, we also had a bunch of guys messaging us going, shit, we've seen these trailers you've built for yourselves. You're going to sell them. And that's sort of where the brick business sort of started. And I mean, with the software, with Better Brick, at the same time, Mark was building the products. I was working on our software. We were using about 5 different apps and software at the time, and it was just so much manual handling. And I think the other thing that we found is there's a lot of software out there that we tried, but it probably did too much. It wasn't really simple enough, and you kind of get, if there's too much noise, you get lost in it. So we really wanted to create something that just focused on what we needed to worry about. We spent about 12 months building the software and refining our products, and then we launched the brick business, which we've been running for a couple of years. It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, and I think I love it. I love the whole model. I love what you're trying to do, where you've just got all these little channels that you're kind of controlling. And for me, the kind of gear, what I think I appreciate the most is that everything you've done across these 3 companies, or the additional 2 companies, in my eyes, is really purely around how can we be the most efficient we possibly can in Melbourne Masonry. So you've gone at it with the attack of it needs to be performance driven. It needs to be exactly what we need it for. No unnecessary fluff. In terms of the software, because like you're saying, there's so many great softwares out there, but not everybody's suited to naturally take on that kind of burden. Not everybody wants to dive headfirst into a software, learn every in and out and get the efficiencies. Because I've spoken to so many contractors where they have job management software. Because they're not naturally inclined to be able to use something like that, they don't actually get the benefits. So it's actually creating and amplifying all the problems they already have. So they're not getting the benefit, but they go, I've got Traderful, I've got Simpro, I've got ServiceMate. Well, you're not using it properly. That's the problem. We need to get either a new software that's going to be more suited to what you need, or we need to get someone to be the champion of this that isn't you, so you get the benefits. And what I like about the Better Brick app, when you run me through it, you literally said, look, there's so much stuff that you can put into a software. I'm only focused on what is absolutely necessary to increase efficiency. What do we just need to know? And that's what I think I appreciate the most. And so with the trailers and the stuff that you guys are building, fuck me, mate, they're impressive. That's a standout trailer. And I think you'd have a real presence on site rocking up. You'd be getting some interest for sure.
Yeah. And 100%. And everything, although like all of our products, everything is revolved around ROI. They are still a really cool trailer, you know. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to save your time and money, you know. But everything was about, you know, like with bricklaying, there's a pretty low barrier to entry of starting your own business. So what that means, though, for us as a business was, well, we're going to employ people and they're going to be running a job, and I'm not even going to be there. Well, I need to do everything that I can to make sure that job runs efficiently as possible, so that A, I can pay the guy running that team well, and two, we're still going to be a margin that's worth it for us to run the business as well.
Yeah.
So that was where, having the trailers, you know, all these little things, we found it was all the 1%ers. You do a bunch of 1%ers and that is your margin.
Yeah. And you've kind of battle tested this over the years, optimize it all, and then you're able to give it to other people to just get that shortcut straight away. But if you don't mind, I just want to circle back quickly. So did you scaled to 90 people within 3 years?
Yeah.
So are you 20 at this point? 20 years old?
I was 24, 25. Yeah.
24, 25. Mate, that's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it was very, yeah. And I think, to be honest with you, the biggest thing that we lacked was the management skills at that point. You know, I had to put the right idea, but I didn't know how to execute it properly at that point. You know,
even sometimes too, I don't want to speak for you, but emotional maturity, like you kind of develop that up until you're 30. Even at times, like that's a lot of people, that's a lot of egos, that's a lot of personalities, that's a lot of headaches if you're not ready for that kind of growth. And like you're saying, you guys had to scale back down and get the systems in place. But I mean, while we're on the topic of teams and stuff like that, what do you think would be your biggest lessons learned when growing and running a team? So you went up to 90, you dropped back down. What was the biggest takeaway in all that, do you think?
I would say to not run your business in fear. So, like, probably fear of failing was massive, you know, and you think if you're not growing, you're failing something. It's not really right. I think the other biggest lesson would be to really, you know, and you guys preach this as well, but optimize before you maximize. Like, really make sure that what you're doing is efficient as possible before you want to scale that. What was the other one? Really, the other one was like probably just being able to read the landscape, like in the construction industry, there's lots of highs and lows, and making sure that you understand how they can impact your business, so that, you know, a decision you make now could impact you, you know, in 12 months' time, and where's the market going to be in that time? And really understand that. That'd probably be the biggest key takeaways. But I reckon the fear one's a massive one, because when you go out, to be someone that's passionate and wants to grow a business, you really want it. So at the same time, you don't want to fail, but you have to kind of let that go to be able to succeed. You have to follow what's working and really take an analytical approach. Yeah.
And I think too, like, to me, business is one big game of chess. You've got to know your next 5 moves.
Yeah.
It's critical. Because like you're saying, in construction too, there are highs and lows. It doesn't matter how well we prepare. The industry will always be that way. So in terms of knowing your numbers, profitability, cash reserves, team efficiency, labor productivity, all this stuff matters, and you need to be on top of it before you even think about growing. And one of the biggest realizations for me early on when I started getting into business coaching was working with a $20 million contractor that was making less profit than someone turning $500,000.
Yeah.
Like when I saw that, I couldn't comprehend it. It just shatters. It doesn't make sense. And then, you know, I'm an accountant by trade. You dive into all the numbers. You obviously understand why that's the case. But for me, what didn't make sense was, how do the owners justify this much revenue for such little reward, that much risk for no payoff? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I think, that whole optimize before you maximize, otherwise you just amplify your problems.
Yeah.
Financial, team, marketing, so everything just gets amplified to a larger scale. And that's what I think leads to burnout faster. That pursuit of chasing growth. And I think for me personally too, you almost have to check yourself, drop your ego a little bit and realize, hey, this growth that I'm pursuing in this volume, is it for me or is it for the status?
Yeah.
Because if it's for me, I need to be focusing on profit rather than volume, because that's what makes more sense. If I'm chasing status, go grow some big fancy business that everyone's going to look at and be amazed by, but it's not going to be a long-term strategy that's going to pay off very well.
No, I'd agree with that. 100%. And I think that's where it's important, going back to, what are you actually running the business for?
What's the why?
What's the why? Yeah, because that was a big change for us when you go back to the why.
And what was your why? Like, obviously, are you chasing impact in the industry to do awesome work, to work with your family and support your family? Is it financial freedom? Like, what's the biggest driver for you, do you think? Or has it changed from when you started to now?
No, it's kind of always been the same, to be honest. But the one reason that, we wanted to keep growing Melbourne Masonry, and it wasn't really, I just wanted to make a difference in the industry and really help everyone. But what I realised, through the journey is there's actually so many good guys out there that are really proud of their own business and, they want to do good as well and run their own business. And I was like, you know what, like that was, when I went back and said, what do I really want to do? I did want to make a big impact in the industry for the better. And that was when I realised that, I love Melbourne Masonry, but at the same time, I actually really want to make a difference in the industry and help other guys.
Yeah.
And that's with the software. And that's why with the software, that's kind of something that I really enjoy, because I believe that you can have a massive impact, the biggest impact probably with the, it's something that, could have a massive impact overnight, essentially.
100%. 100%. So that naturally is what's driving you to transition into the software, or more of your time being spent there. And what are your kind of plans with that? Are you looking to take this thing and just try and get it essentially into every bricklaying business in the country? Is that the vision?
From what I've learned, I've kind of got to let the market dictate. I need to really just adapt to the journey, and I just want to put the guys first. What do they want? What do they need? What's going to make a difference? And kind of let that guide the journey, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a funny one too with marketing and product delivery and stuff like that, because I think it runs through in any business. Oftentimes, you have to give people what they want before you can give them what they need.
Yeah. True. I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And I mean, sort of on this topic, circling back a little bit to the whole team thing, we touched on it a little bit between, your brother and your other business partner. But as you grew, how did what was the evolution of your role? How did you go about finding out how everyone needed to sit within the business? Was there any challenges with that? Like, was your brother happy to be parked where you parked him, and everyone justifying you being where you were? Like, what did that all look like?
Well, I think the biggest thing with business partners is I'd put it aside from anything else, from skills or anything. Trust would be the biggest, that is the most important thing. And if you've got trust, then you can try things, and you trust in each other. So it was a matter of trial and error, and there was no ego between us at all. We all trusted each other. So that's kind of what got us through, to be honest. But it was really the last couple of years where we really dived into it. From that trial and error, like, you're good at this, you keep doing this,
Stay there, don't move.
Kind of molded itself, as long as we were just being honest and we took our emotion out of it, it made it quite clear, it wasn't, there was no, it really just molded itself. So,
that's awesome.
Really picked up what we're good at, and I think the other big thing about business partners is, like, as long as it's enjoyable and profitable, then it's worth doing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business together. Yeah,
definitely. And I tell you, once you establish that trust as well, where, hey, when someone says they're going to do something, it's getting done. Yeah. That kind of gives you subconscious permission to just focus on what you want to be doing, focus on what you don't have to even worry about these other functions. You get the update with your daily or weekly meetings, but you have less, essentially just you have less to worry about. Like, you can just free yourself up, know that's being handled, and you have the advantage over other companies that haven't figured that out.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where, like, knowing your metrics, though, just having a couple of key metrics in your business, and then because we're able to then go, okay, well, you're responsible for that metric and you're responsible for that metric. And then you don't need to look over their shoulder. If you've got the metric there, well, then that answers all your questions. You don't need to look over their shoulder. So, and
it's either good or bad. That starts the conversation of what do we need to be doing? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? Yeah, the KPIs are critical. So I guess in that too, how do you think you've had to grow personally as a leader?
Taking ownership's a massive one. Trying to not making excuses and just hitting everything head on. Just really owning it is, that's definitely puts you forward as a leader. I think that's step one. Own everything. Like, just own everything. Like, like they say, like, if one of my employees makes up, like, he has the stuff up, that's my fault. You know what I mean? And then just everything from there, and then that gets you in the mindset of something happens, you don't make an excuse, and you can actually start moving that, and you can get on with it. So we all listened to an audio book a few years ago too, which was Extreme Ownership. That kind of really changed our mindset. And that was all around that same time where we wanted to, change the ego growth, move back to profitability, get a really smooth operating machine happening, and at the same time, really taking ownership for what's going on, where we're at, where we want to be. That's probably the biggest one as well. Taking ownership on where you want to be. That goes back to your 5-year plan, or where do you want to be in 5 years? Will you own that? Make it happen, and then the leadership will follow with that mindset.
Absolutely. And I think too, the day that you realize that you are responsible for every outcome in your life is when you start to see results.
Yeah, 100%.
Just not making the second you make an excuse, you open yourself up to be a victim and you give away control. When we sign a new client for us, we send a welcome package and all that kind of jazz. One of the things in that is extreme ownership, like the hard copy book. And I write a little handwritten note and I go, if you want to achieve trade business success, this book is a must read, like non-negotiable. You want to work with that team, you got to read this book.
Yeah,
even if you already have the mindset, unless you are on the same page of us and how we conduct ourselves, we're not going to work well together.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible for your own life. We're here to help, but unless you are taking ownership of your own outcomes, you will not get results.
Yeah, 100%. That would be the most important book I'd say to read. I've read quite a few, and that one definitely hit home. So
I gift it to people. I subtly, indirectly try to give the hint to people by going, check out this book and here's a copy. Check this one out. It's so important. Yeah. And do you think when you started out, obviously very early on, you guys scaled pretty quickly because you're a really driven guy. I'm assuming your brother is too in the business part. You guys attack head on, you're going for it. That's the type of people you are. Did you make many big leadership mistakes early on?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. I would call them. I'd say any leadership mistake is big, and we did. So the big sort of point where it changed for us was when we were kind of doing all the operations management, managing all the teams, and when we decided to, the next step for us was actually hiring someone to start managing the teams. And that kind of was where we lost, all control, and we weren't ready for the management. And it was more about, probably more the accountability, and knowing how to deal with that. Like, accountability is massive. So we could hold people accountable to a team level, but when it stepped up to holding a manager accountable to running the teams, that was another growth step we weren't ready for.
100%. Yeah, it's a whole different playing field, really.
Yeah, it really is.
And in terms of culture and having a large team, what's your take on if you've got, say, a top performer, A player, really good at what they do, but, their attitude or their ego or something about their character is creating friction and resistance and doesn't quite fit in with the culture you're trying to build. How do you go about handling that? Do you keep the top performer? Do you get rid of them? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So that's another interesting one. So when we were in that growth mindset, we wanted to grow, and it was, a bit fearful and a bit ego. Like we would put aside what we're willing to put up with, and just because we wanted to keep growing, and that was a massive detriment to the team. So when we had the 90 guys, there probably was about 20% that were toxic, and it really, and what we found was that when you've got those toxic guys, then your good players go, well, why are you putting up with them? And it makes them get demoralised. So that was part of that restructure and coming back. And the guys that we have now, they're actually the guys that started with us at the start, and they have a really good culture. So we put that ahead of anything because, especially all trades are the same, but like bricklaying especially, we make money on motivation. And if these guys aren't motivated and they're getting, it's just not worth it. If you've got a top performer who's negative and brings other people down, it's not worth it at all. At all. We put attitude ahead of skill. We put attitude ahead of anything because people can be trained relatively easy, because if they have a good attitude, they'll learn quick.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
I honestly could not agree more. And it's like that whole, one bad banana spoils the bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
We're in a tough industry. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And if you've got people making you feel shit about being there, it just amplifies everything becomes a little problem. And then you get this resentment towards yourself and the management team, and then you want to leave, and you've got all these team problems. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. You get that one. It's insane how much difference one person can make, good and bad. You get that one bad employee, it can just throw everything out that you're trying to do. and trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's insane. It spreads, and the rumor, just the amount of time you spend managing the problems that arise, far outweighs.
Oh, God. You lose all your time very quickly because you're just putting out fires, and then you're thinking too while it's happening, what a fucking stupid problem to have. Like, this shouldn't be how I spend my day. This shouldn't be a problem that I have, and that's frustrating. Then you get your own resentment towards your own business, and it ties into that why. You're going, well, I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying this. What's the point?
Yeah.
And that's when you start getting those big problems.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree.
And we've been jumping a little bit all over the place here in terms of topics, but I wouldn't mind talking about marketing really quickly here because, again, like you see your trucks, you got the whole green, you got the uniforms, you got the custom trailers. Like it's impressive. I think you've got a really strong brand. So I wanted to get your take on, how do you go about marketing and branding? What are your thoughts on the topic itself?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that, when you become a tradesman, you have absolutely no idea about whatsoever. And I didn't for many years. And even when we started with the trucks, we understood that, you need a market, but I didn't really understood what it meant, the value you get from it. And really, since we've launched the brick business a couple of years ago, that's where I really understood, a lot more about marketing, because moving from a service business to a product business is completely different, completely different ball games. That taught us a lot around marketing and, your value proposition and all that. And now we're starting to introduce, we have been for like the last 12 months, a lot more. We're putting a much bigger emphasis on marketing. Really, it's everything. It's everything to your business. Your perceived value is your margin, which, creates everything for your business. So if you never have that margin, you're never going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Through a lot of things, but marketing is certainly the number one thing that the customers are going to see.
Yeah. What I always try to tell people as well, like, hey, if you were to put your business up against the absolute best in your industry, face value, who would you pick? Because if it's not you, you've got some work to do. That's a problem in my eyes. And I'm not saying you have to achieve that overnight, but that should be the goal. Because you don't have to, look, I'm always a pusher of, hey, you need to price adequately to what you deliver. So if you're a shit contractor, you don't deserve to charge premium prices.
Yeah.
But the reality is, and this is what frustrates me, you don't have to be the best to actually grow your company. You don't have to be the best to get the best clients or to make the most money, because it's the perceived value of your service. Yeah. So like you're saying, it's a marketing game. Yeah. We're all salesmen, we're all marketers. And the sooner people realize that, the sooner you'll get results, because that perceived value is everything. And I think I'm on a personal mission. I'm waging war on word of mouth. The conversation I get into with people go, I don't need a market. I got word of mouth. You're relying on the hope that someone else talks about your company to grow, like to feed your family, feed yourself, pay your bills. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you need to take control of your marketing and prioritize it, because and this is the other thing too. People start to understand it. They go, okay, yeah, it makes a little bit of sense. And they try one thing for one day and they go, it didn't work. Yeah. I'm like, hey, the shit you're doing now, this might get you a job 12 months from now. Yeah. Like, you can get results a lot faster, but your mentality needs to be long-term chess. The next 5 moves. Like, the work I'm doing will feed me and my family 2 years from now. Yeah. And if you go into it with that, the mindset of consistency and just, this is what I have to do every week because it matters, that's when I see businesses pull ahead from others.
Yeah. And then again, that all comes back to the why, I believe, because then it's like, if you know why, then that's what's going to get you through. Because I think there's a lot of contractors out there that, if you don't know how much money you're making and you're stressed out and you bury your head in the sand, well, marketing's the last thing you're worried about. You're probably more worried about, is this even worth it? Should I just pack up your tools and go work for someone? Yeah. So that's it. It does go back to, what do I really want? And then everything from there will start making a lot more sense. And then, and once you start understanding your numbers, then you start understanding why is marketing important. Oh, big time, big time. That when we open up the spreadsheet and go, how much money do you actually want to earn this year? People go, well, I'd like to make, $100,000 salary. So fair market-based wage. I wouldn't mind earning 250 grand profit on top of that, pre-tax. That's a fantastic goal. Here's what's required. Break it down to very simple KPIs, and they go, right. Makes sense. And for me, like you're saying, you set the goalpost first. Everything's easy then, because you figured out what I actually want. Why am I doing this? What's the point? Then all you need to worry about is, how do we get there? Yeah. What marketing strategies? What sales conversion? What price? Like,
for me too, when you set that financial target, people start getting very firm with their pricing. So go, well, if I don't hit this margin, if I'm not making 50% or 30% or whatever it is, I don't earn the money that I want to earn this year. Yeah. And they start holding firm and actually, you know, not falling over to the customer's objections.
No, I'd agree. And it gives them it's about the confidence, because they know that, all right, well, it's not a guess game in their head. They go, no, I know that's why I'm doing this. And that's what I want to achieve. That's what I need to charge. And there is no if buts about it.
We went through, a little while ago with the carpentry client, we went through labor rates, overhead recovery. We just went through all the modeling and said, look, this is how much you need to be charging. This is the margin. Here's how you achieve it. Yeah. And he just goes, is that it? Like, that's the magic number. So, well, at this point in time, like, your goals will change. But right now, yeah, if you deviate from this, you don't hit the goal. And that sort of light bulb just went off. And like you're saying, just the confidence, he went into the next sale. And he started just, like, it was a pretty significant increase in gross profit, like, that he was pricing at. And he was just, nothing changed with his conversion. I'm like, doesn't that feel good that you were going to do this work anyway? And it's a really dangerous trap that people get stuck into, where they're super busy. They don't find the time to get their head around this stuff, or they don't know how. And they just work their asses off all year round. Yeah. They finally get a chance to breathe come Christmas. They look at their bank account. They go, well, I haven't made anything.
Yeah. Well, that being busy, you know, well, it's as opposed to effort versus reward, I suppose, that's what we try and go back to now all the time. Just effort versus reward. You know, where's our time best spent?
Absolutely. And, you know, everyone's got high value tasks depending on their role. And when you start to nut out what those look like, and you free yourself up and gain the leverage to just focus on those things, like when you guys established who's going to play what role in the business, I imagine that's when things really turn around for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when things started really happening.
Yeah. It's awesome. But yeah, in terms of marketing, like, I love it, because I think you've really focused on a strong brand, and I think that would be evident on site. I think you would get a lot of attention, which is probably why, because you're working with some pretty premium builders, aren't you?
Yeah, we've got some big guys that we're working with now. And the branding's definitely, well, to be honest, the lack of branding from the other contractors made it really easy for us to stand out. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, little things like, I had a job that we won recently that I literally just got a brochure put together based on this job. And, you know, it was $1 million job. And that one, essentially, I'd say that brochure won the job. I got a text message a day later saying, mate, just wanted to say that brochure was brilliant, you know, and from the company. So just
like a hybrid sort of capability statement / who we are, but tailored to that.
I wasn't about that. I'd already sent him a company profile. It was more about, this is the job. This is how we're going to deliver your job.
Yeah.
And your brochure. That was like, you know, it was something that I'm just like, I'm going to show these. I've already done the thought in my head about how I'm going to do this job. I'm just going to show these guys how I'm going to nail this job, you know. And they had, this job was at a couple of $100,000 higher than the other quote. So we still won it. And then that brochure probably cost me $150 to put together.
I love it, because it's confidence. All you're doing is communicating confidence, and that you're less risk than other options. And what I'm always talking to people about is that half the time your marketing is not creating stuff. It's documenting what you're doing. Like you said, you already know how you're going to approach this job because you've quoted it. You know what you're going to do. You know what the plan is. You know what they're looking for. Yeah, so if you're the one contractor who actually takes the time to go, maybe I'll tell them. Maybe I'll just communicate this and not slap a price together so that I'm just another figure, and that I have a bit of a unique point of difference here. It has an insane impact. Like you're saying, $150 brochure, $1 million contract.
Yeah.
It's not in day.
No, I was like, that was a sort of tested theory. I'm like, yeah, this works.
probably run that one again.
Yeah. So we're definitely putting marketing is massive, and that I'm building processes out now, and that's my role, is to be able to step into the marketing more and get, you know, we are good at what we do, so we just need it. No one expresses that enough, you know. Document
what you're doing, why you're different, why you're, you know, lower risk, and why you're better. Like I think people fall into the trap of making a lot of assumptions. Like, we assume that our clients know certain things about us or how we operate. Half the time they don't. It's like following up with quotes. Like, people are so busy that we're going, oh, they didn't get back to us. Job's gone. They'll probably give it to someone else. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, run up. Like, they got to drop the kids off to school. They got a doctor's appointment. They got all this stuff going on. You talk about project managers or builders too. Like we were saying earlier in this interview, how much responsibility they have. You've got to smack them over the head with the 2x4 to get their attention.
Yeah.
Like this, like you've got to prioritize this stuff.
Yep.
And I think too, I don't know about you, but me personally, when you dive into marketing, the more you learn about it and the more you understand how to influence people through marketing and what works and what doesn't, it actually becomes more fun.
Yeah, it does. At the end of the day, all you're trying to do is understand what, their problems like, and you already do as a contractor. You do understand what their problems are. You just need to show them you understand.
100%. 100%. So I guess, one of my questions I wanted to ask was, what do you find works well for you for marketing? That's a huge bit of advice for anyone listening. Take the time, especially, it's obviously dependent on the job. If you're doing a $150 service job, you don't have to go to that length, but take the time to understand who's the decision maker, what are their motives, what are they trying to achieve, or what outcome do they want, and persuade, build the argument around that. Everything in the sale should be built around what does this specific person want to see. Don't just slap a price together.
Yeah, 100%. And then so the marketing and having the visual presence is one thing, and then definitely the sales side is the other thing, which is getting on the front, getting in person. Like you say, the more that I know if you go and meet someone, that your conversion rate percentage is going to go up by a hell of a lot. Like just because if you're good at what you do, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel your passion and your presence, and they will know that you're going to deliver the job. And the other guy, if he's busy running around and he can't make it out there, then what does that say for how he's going to deliver the job?
Big red flag. Yeah, definitely. We always refer to it as kicking the dirt. The more you can go out and meet the customer in person, like you're saying, the higher the conversion rate. Because again, too, you're a real person. Yeah. You're not hiding behind a price. And like you're saying, if you have the time to go out and physically meet someone and spend, an hour and a half, sometimes 2 or even longer, building some rapport, building a relationship, going through the job, even though you've already articulated it into your quote or your proposal and you've already spoken about it formally, just reiterating things, asking them questions about what they're wanting to see and what would be a deal breaker for this project and how you're going to combat that and work around them and build into their schedule.
Yep.
That is going to give so much confidence over the guy, like you're saying, that's too busy to even ring them or follow up on the quote. It's like, well, if something goes wrong in this project, how am I going to get onto you? If you can't even meet me before you've won the job, what's this say for how you're going to manage it?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kicking the dirt's really, really, really important.
Would you say that's a large part of your strategy? Is anytime you can, depending on the time, obviously, but go out there, meet them, shake hands, be enthusiastic, talk about how you're going to, tackle the job.
And that was one of the things that me and my business partner Dakota discovered that we're good at. I was good at giving them the confidence of, okay, we know how to run a business. I understand, we've definitely quoted right, and I understand that side. But Dakota was really good at getting across. He knows how to run these jobs for you. He's going to deliver this job, on time. He's going to deliver it without hassle. And that's so when we've worked that out how we work together now, and I can kind of get the deal done, but he can really seal the deal with this is the guy delivering your project,
Oh,
so
awesome.
Just working out your strengths and then really, playing on that. So
I really like introducing the key players.
Yeah.
Because again, all you're doing is lowering the risk of choosing Melbourne Masonry.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It is a risk thing. So and I like I seen one of your videos. It was like when they're looking at a quote, they're comparing the two. Like you've really got to put into your marketing, like, this is what we're going to do to mitigate that risk. Yes, it's going to be higher, but if you take on them at, their lower price, well, they could cost you a lot more,
Yeah. In the past, I'm trying to be respectful here. This is someone I used to work with, but I went to a lot of effort to build out a complete custom proposal, capability statement. Like, this is stuff that I really enjoy doing. We've got a lot of experience doing. Like, I went through and just rebranded, did all this stuff in a really short time frame because these people were it was a bit of a desperate situation. I'm inclined to help people naturally. So I'm like, I'm going to put in overtime hours to get this done for you. We're going to make this happen because you need to be winning jobs at high prices. Like, this has to happen. So we'll make it happen. Went through all the stuff, built out, and for the proposal, clear scope of work on, hey, you need to communicate this stuff. Here's a 6-point guarantee. Here's all these things that are going to help better communicate value so that when you're stacked up against this other contractor, you'll probably win the job. This is a tool, so you still have to sell well and the marketing still matters, but these are the tools that will enhance your conversion rate. And the comment that I got was, it looks all right, but won't this take me a lot of time? Won't this be a lot of work? I'm thinking, if this help, like you're saying, $150 brochure, bit of work goes into that to win $1 million job. It's the trade-off. Like how, and for me, I was just blown away. I'm like, you don't understand why this is so important. Maybe I haven't explained this properly and I had to go through it all again. But that was the resistance. Like they didn't get that. If you got ABC Electrical versus ABC Electrical and there's two prices and there's just two logos and that's it, which one's cheaper? I want to go with them.
Yeah.
I'm not getting anything else.
Yeah.
Like if you have nothing better to offer than price, that is the only thing that people will fixate on.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think more people need to realize that because they go, this is what bugs me. They go to all the efforts to price the job or even go out, meet the job, meet the client, go through the job, quote it, build it all up, send it through, and they don't even follow up or they go to all this effort and they don't win the job. I'm like, wouldn't you rather get compensated for that?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I
think the one of the other big things with marketing was just introducing a CRM to our business. So actually somewhere where we can manage our quotes. Because again, if you're going to put the effort into actually doing a quote, you want to make sure that you get every single opportunity you can to win it. So and making sure you're managing everything that comes in. What happens with it?
Yeah. Where are you at in the sales process, depending on the client, and being able to see your full sales pipeline at the click of a button is so important. Because I think too, this is really common for guys just starting out, which is natural because you're having a crack, you're not really sure, you haven't been in the game that long, business is a whole new beast and you've got to learn different lessons or take on different mentors. But having everything stored up here in your head, just all of your marketing efforts, quotes, jobs, team stuff, suppliers, finance, who have invoiced, all this stuff in one place in your head is really, or across the whiteboards, it can be really difficult to stay on top of this stuff. So I guess, coming back to your software too, any masonry companies or brickies out there, jumping into software that's going to simplify this stuff and give you the clarity of how we're progressing with our jobs, where we're at with our sales, where we're at with our invoicing. Like it'll save so much time.
Yeah, and anxiety. And that was, I think one of the biggest things like what we learned about when we were scaling was around the budgets actually, like there's so many guys out there that don't set budgets on like large jobs. They won't have a budget. They don't know what they want to spend. It's crazy to me. And that was when it made it easier to scale. We were like, all right, well, on these jobs, we want to achieve this margin. This is our budget. If they hit that, there's no stress. And I'm not worried about what old mate's doing on the job. He's got a budget. He knows what he needs to do. And
it's all calculated. There's no guesswork. And that's going to give, ease of mind, peace of mind. It's going to make you feel happy to know that we're on track to hit our goals.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge one, all the margins and stuff like that. And I got a question too. So you said you trialed some other job management software. How quickly did you go, fuck this, I'm just going to do it myself? How quickly did that happen?
Look, we used it. I knew, to be honest with you, I knew even when we started it, like I knew it wasn't for us. And I sort of always had an inkling that I was going to do it. But it was pretty evident after we used it for about 2 years, but I think after 12 months, I was like, I'd had enough of actually asking for requests and changes and, something to be a bit more suited and just nothing ever eventuated. So, but I knew as well, I had to use something to have a better idea of what I actually needed. Yeah.
Yeah. What it all looks like. How does it work? What do you not want as well? Yeah. What doesn't need to be in there?
Yeah. And that was the hardest thing stripping away the things you don't need. But it was also, really, because like when you're busy, the last thing, and you're a tradie and like you're on site a lot, the last thing you want to be doing is spending time on things doesn't make a huge impact,
Yeah, and it's crazy too in any function of business when you start actually assessing how you spend your time or what you're doing or what activities are being done, and you think objectively, does this actually matter? It is insane how much stuff you can just stop doing. Like, I'm not even talking about delegating. You can literally just stop doing so much stuff when you actually think, does this help us make money and drive the business forward? Yes or no?
Yeah, there's that. Yeah. Well, that was another book I read, The 4-Hour Workweek, and taught a lot of those principles around. Rip out the things that really don't matter. It's actually surprising. You think a lot of things matter that really don't.
People create busyness because they think that busy means I'm productive and being productive is going to make me money. Like a lot of people go, I'm too busy. I go, well, you're making yourself busy doing stuff that doesn't actually matter. And I don't say it as blunt as that because you get some pretty rough reactions, obviously. But that realization of not everything you are doing actually is important. Yeah, is important. It's huge.
It's so hard to define what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing. Like, you're too busy. everyone's too busy cutting the grass with scissors to go and buy a lawnmower.
Absolutely. And that then again ties back to the why. What is the goalpost? What are we actually trying to achieve? That will then help you determine what is important and what isn't.
Yeah.
And what's creating this busyness. But with the software, where are you at currently? Because from my understanding, you've got quite a lot of people using it right now. You're still enhancing it. You're getting the feedback from people and just trying to improve it daily.
We're not even really going to market with it. We've got a group of guys around Australia, some of the guys that I want to have an influence on, making it better. And so I created something that was kind of like a base that our MVP that was, it's going to be suitable for our business. And I wanted to just get it out there to some guys and see what they thought. And yeah, I've learned a hell of a lot. It's the software that we have now is probably a bit more suited to the guys that are managing at least one, at least sort of two teams. They're getting a massive benefit out of it. And we're actually in the process of developing just a simpler mobile app for the guys that have sort of under 5 guys, because we've recognised that's probably the mass market, and those guys want to get to the next step, but again, they don't know how. So again, like you were saying, you got to develop something they want before they necessarily know what they need. So the mobile app will be the one that will kind of get them understanding their business really simply. And then once they do, they can jump up to the next step, which will help them scale. So first step is optimize, second step, maximize, like you say. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. We're taking a massive, one of the things that we're hiding like really highly is the UX. So like, again, there's a number of apps out there and a lot of them are battling on features and that. I think we've recognised with Australian tradies, but definitely brickies in general, that the way that you use it and feel, that will mean more than any feature. The way, how easy it is, the impact, like how it makes you feel. Because if it makes you feel a certain way, that'll make you do something a certain way, and that is the impact we're after. So we're taking a massive, approach to the just the UX and the whole
the usability is a massive priority.
Psychology behind it and all that. So we're doing a bunch of interviews with brickies and really getting feedback, getting some data, some strong data behind what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they feel about it. And we're about to move into design stage with the mobile app. So yeah, we're pretty excited to get that moving. And at the same time, we're just constantly chipping away with our current app because we kind of have two levels. But the mobile app, which is for your contractor who's on site, a few guys, and then the other app is more your enterprise level. So that'll be your business owner who's a bit more off the tools and looking to improve his conversion rate, marketing, and his gross profit margin and all that sort of thing. So and again, we thought it was important to separate the two because the guy, who's running around, doesn't know what he's doing, that he's going to be overwhelmed by something that, is set up to do the things that they shouldn't really be worried about yet.
And it can be disheartening too. I think that's really interesting. I like how you're going about that too, because the second there's friction with software, the implementation fails.
Yeah.
Because people go in with the wrong mindset. They have that negative connotation towards it. That affects, anyone else in the team using it because they crack the shits and people can see that and it's too hard, and all of a sudden we don't need it, we'll just continue doing what we're doing, and then they miss out on all the benefits that you're able to actually give through streamlined operations. So I like that you're actually going to the effort to interview people and go, hey, what's working, how's it making you feel? Like that's huge. That's really huge. So you'd be pretty excited about that, right?
Yeah, we're stepping through each part of the business going, okay, well, for the whole process of a job, and then go at the start, well, this is what they're doing. All right, and then when that happens, how does that make them feel? Or what do we need to show them, to help them get through that? And actually kind of being a bit of a guide for them through the business. And that is the reason why we just angled just for brickies. We wanted to do just for brickies because we feel like if you niche it to them, you can have a much bigger impact.
Yeah.
So that was, and like in our whole strategy with the software business is our marketing, we will be stepping up the marketing, but our biggest marketing we'll be doing is making our product really good.
I think that's the best you can do because if you've got the best product, you're going to win, hands down, because it's easier to market when you are that confident that your product is going to help people and change their lives.
We want our customers to be our salespeople, So, but we're definitely focusing on problem first instead of just jumping straight to solutions. So,
I love it. Mate, I guess one last question to close out. God forbid, you lose everything overnight. Melbourne Masonry, it's gone. You got to start all over again. What would you do in what order? Like, what would the focus be? Do you think?
I think the one thing that, from what I've learned now, is that where I'm like everything that I have is kind of irrelevant. What I've learned is the most important. So if I was to lose everything, it probably wouldn't bother me that much at the moment because like I know that what I've learned is really the valuable thing. I don't know. I don't even know if I would do what I've done again. I'm not sure. I think that's really
it's a tough question. I really do understand.
What I can say though is, like I said, I don't know if I would be too worried, to be honest, because I know that I could with what I've learned now and learning all those business skills. It's definitely I'm just not in fear about any of that. I know I could go start another business. It's more about what I want to do. That's the biggest challenge I think I have. So.
And I think that in itself is a huge lesson for everyone listening. It just puts the emphasis on your skill set, like your personal skill set is the most valuable asset in your company.
100%. Yeah, you really need to spend some money on yourself. And because that's everything else will happen. It's all about when you're ready. Absolutely.
I guess, look, to wrap things up, Scott, thanks heaps for coming on the show. It's been great speaking with you. I'm sure everyone listening is going to get a heap of value from this. Do you have any final words or pieces of advice for any other contractors out there that are, out there working hard, trying to improve and get better?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice is everyone should go away and, have a good think about what they want out of life and, and actually writing it down on paper is different to just thinking about it. And then focus all your energy from achieving that, like to achieving that instead of just being busy. That'd be my biggest bit of advice, I'd say.
I love it. I think the reason why a lot of people don't get what they want in life is because they don't know what it is.
Hard to achieve something if you don't know what you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. It's, hit a target that keeps moving. You don't know what it is. But look, Scott, thanks heaps for coming on the show, mate. It's been a great episode. And I think everyone listening is going to get a heap of value from it.
Cheers for having us. It's been awesome.